What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing something very different because here in the Northeast US we do not have sports car, supercar, hypercar driving weather, whatever you want to call it. So I'm often asked to compare some of the cars. The most common one I think has been Spider RS or C806. So those will be in here, of course. We'll have all the cars in here. But all of them are pretty much comparable, give or take. Obviously price range varies, which is why we have value on here. But let's go ahead and start with speed, which is the most objective. Hopefully this will have the least complaints from people. 815 horsepower, 2,500 pounds. The Elva is going to go in at the highest. We're going 1 through 9 with 9 cars on the list, so we'll add up the scores at the end. That's why we're not going 1 with the Elva, we're going 9 with the highest. 750, slightly slower, still up there, and obviously the McLarens are 1, 2, and 3 on this list. I'm going to put the Z06, we're going to do this based off quarter mile, straight line. I'm going to put the Z06 at 6 with 670 horsepower. It feels fairly similar to Spider RS, but more consistently it'll beat it in the quarter mile. Then these two, the 458 and the Spider RS, are really close. 458 feels a bit quicker, but on paper they're about equal, so I'm just going to give the 458 the edge here. Again, if we lined it up, it might be different. So Spider RS in at 4, and then 3, 550 horsepower, 500 pounds-feet of torque, but just the manual holds it back in this regard. 4GT at 3, C8 at 2, my old C8 Stingray, and then the Lotus in at 1. So yes, my car is in at the 2 slowest spots. Probably not that surprising. Now, this I'm sure will be more controversial, but of course this is just my opinion. Again, for fun, which is the second tab, the Elva is going to have to come in at number 1. I'm sorry, it just does. 2,500 horsepower, no windshield, just insane visceral experience. The best steering feel, which we'll talk about in a second, of any car I've ever driven. 750, similar experience, just dialed down quite a lot. Surprisingly, not going to go in with 720 at 7 fun-wise. I think especially, this is more on a boring drive kind of thing. If we're on a track, I'm going to have a lot more fun than McLaren or even a back road. But I'm going to put the Lotus in ahead of the 720, then put the 720 in there. And the 720 is really close with what I'm putting at number 5, being the Spider RS. The Spider has that same small car feel as the Lotus, but with the PDK, not just the same fun for a boring drive and not a really exciting drive. The McLaren's just so much quicker. The steering's a lot better, which again, we'll get to in a second. Z06, this was a really tough one for me. Z06 I put in ahead of the 458. In boring driving, the Z06 drives like a basic car, which we'll get into again in a little bit. But that engine is just that much more exciting than the 458. And when you're on a really good back road, as you guys can see in the last video, the Z06, the levels of grip are just outstanding. So 458 going in at 3, and then at 2, the legendary 4GT. Not that this isn't a fun car, it's just much bigger than the other cars. And then my old C8 brings in the rear here, unfortunately. Steering here, objectively not even close. Gonna have to put the Elva at the top. Don't worry, I'll spoil it a little bit here. The Elva doesn't actually finish the best of all the cars here. Remember, it's so much more money than the others. That's why the fun stuff, the just objective stuff, it will come pretty high. And the McLarens have the best steering, so it goes like this. The 750 steering is a little bit quicker and does have more bite to it mid-corner than the 720, so it goes ahead of the 720. The only other hydraulic, actually no, excuse me, the 4GT is a hydraulic rack, but the Lotus is far better. It's a much more nimble car. It goes in at 6. The 458 actually might be hydraulic as well. It's very similar speeds to the Lotus. Doesn't have quite the feedback, but mid-corner I'd actually argue it's better than the Lotus. RS, best electric steering I've driven. Doesn't say a lot, to be honest. Electric steering, unfortunately, isn't great. There's a lot of numbness mid-corner in the Spider RS. 4GT, great steering, just not quite at the level of the Lotus or the McLarens or even the 458 or the Porsche. It's lazy steering, but really good feedback. The C8s are absolutely atrocious. Z06 slightly edges out the Stingray. But yeah, another 1 for the Stingray, unfortunate. My beloved Stingray. Stingray fights back in the daily category. I did 50,000 miles on mine. Nothing better in the world as a daily, in my opinion, going in with the Stingray at the top spot. Right after that, not far behind, the Z06. Much worse fuel economy, really loud, which can be annoying. And ours is a convertible, so slightly less storage space. Actually, that's not true. I don't know why the front trunk seems smaller to me, because that has nothing to do with the convertible. The back trunk is actually exactly the same size, I think. But again, C8 edges out the Z06 regardless. Steering is also better for a day-to-day basis in the C8. 720 is going to come in at 7th. It's the best ride quality out of all these cars. Honestly, that's just a huge deal. 750 is equally good. And there's going to be an asterisk here, because the Spider RS would be up here for the GT4 RS, but it is not. The Ford, surprisingly, not a terrible daily. Putting it there. Lotus, well, if you forget the value, we're putting the Ford at 5. It's pretty similar to Lotus, but probably just more room inside for a lot of people. So a lot of legroom in the Lotus, but it's not crazy wide. The Ford is like a school bus. 458 going in at 3. If the quality was a little bit better, probably put it higher, but it's also not great in traffic. Putting the Spider S in at 2 specifically because of the roof, and obviously the Elva comes in last here. There's really not debate for that. I think it's pretty obvious. Interior, if we were going just on looks, to be honest, I would probably give it to the Z06 or the 720, but I'm doing this mainly off of quality. I'm putting the Porsche at the top. Our old 991 Speedster did not have it had some quality issues inside. Spider S does not. Really, really well made. This will surprise some people. Putting the 720 in at second just had less quality issues with that than, well, actually no quality issues with the 720, but some just minor stuff with the P1 seats on the 750, which seems to be relatively common. My dad's a bigger guy, so unfortunately that wears it down. Elva's perfect, just not, I don't think it's the best looking interior. The C8 Z06, I'd want to put at 1, but the 3LT dash wrinkling is a disaster, so I'm going to actually put the Stingray ahead of that. And then in at third, we're going to put the Ford. Some quality issues on that too. Nothing major. Really cool. Really, really cool. Like retro mod kind of design. Second, we're going to go with the Lotus. I actually really like the Lotus interior. Really basic. Some people probably won't like that. But again, quality issues with that. And more quality issues than any other car probably in human history is any 2000s or 2010s Ferrari. Maybe the current ones too even. Sticky buttons is atrocious. I'm not even going to go into everything. But if you want to know anything, if you're looking in the market for a 458 or a mid-2000s Ferrari, or 2010s Ferrari, do not expect the interior to hold up very well. No V12s or anything like that in the sound department, but the C8 Z06 stock is absolutely unbelievable. That's winning, and it's not even close. Porsche will be next. Some people may say the Porsche sounds better than the Vet. They would be wrong, and I'd assume they haven't spent much time in a C8 Z06. 7, I'm going with the Elva. People don't really know this, and even from my videos in the car, you can't really tell how insane the sound is. It almost sounds like a 458, but with turbos, you get the whooshers, you get the pops, you get the crazy noises. I wish it came out on camera better, and I apologize. I'll try to get it better in the future. Speaking of 458, we're putting the 458 next in at, well, not 6th, but 3rd, right? 4th, sorry. Then next, the Lotus with the third cat delete sounds absolutely insane. Gets 5 points there. And then after that, we're going to go with the 750 in at 4. 750 sounds insane. Plenty of videos of pops and stuff like that. I need to do a full video with that with the new camera on the channel. Third, 720, pretty mute. Not quite as mute as the 4GT though, which is slightly more muted than the C8, but makes a cooler noise. You get some supercharger noise and stuff like that. So C8, unfortunately, once again, finishing last in a category. Handling the lightest car with probably the lowest center of gravity is going to get this one, of course, the Elva. Next, though, might surprise some people. I'm not going to put a McLaren. I'm going to put the C8 Z06. The front end grip on that car is absolutely insane. If you put me in that in the 750 on track, I'm probably doing better lap times to 750. But the front end bite, I do think medium speed corners would be hard to beat. I mean, just the grip out of that, it's insane. Then after that, we're going to go with back to the McLarens. 7 points for the 750 and 6 points for the 720. You can look up the track video on the 750. I'm not pushing that hard in that video because the camera falls at the end of the video, and it's my first laps on track in that car, but you could still see just how capable that is and how insanely fast it is in a straight line. Then we're going to give the Porsche 5 points. Great, great handling car. Slightly edges the Lotus. It's just a little less hairy, Larry than the Lotus, even on its basically semi-slick Dunlop Sport Max 2s. 3 points we're going to give to the Ferrari. It's not really fair to the Ferrari because I've only driven the car in Miami, but I can tell you the front end doesn't load up quite as well as some of the other cars, but it feels magical mid-corner. 2, I'm going to give to... Oops, I messed up here. I gave the 8 points to the C8. Let's give that to the Z06. And then let's switch it. Let's give 2 to the C8 Stingray. 1 to the 4GT. 4GT is actually a much better handling car than you'd probably think, but it still comes out last out of this group of just really good handling cars. Value, you might expect to go to the Corvettes, especially how much I talk about how great value all the CH iterations are. Stingray, Z06, even E-Ray, ZR1, ZR1X, all unbelievable value, but I'm giving it to the 720. Current values, low 200s, high 190s for a 2018 coupe. It's just unbeatable in specialness, driving experience, and all that. If we were just talking performance, we'd go with the C8s, but let's put the Z06 in with 8 points, then the regular C8 in with 7. Those are both unbelievable cars. Barely lost any money on my C8 driving at 50,000 miles. That's a pretty insane statement. And the level of performance you get for that kind of money just doesn't make any sense. We're going to put the 750 in at 6. I know that sounds insane. but they've started depreciating now, and the level of performance and connection you're getting with that car is just not replicable at any other brand under $1 million. 5, we're gonna go with the Porsche. I actually think the Porsche is pretty bad value, but let's just say more the connection stuff than the numbers, which is the same with the Lotus, which you can get 4 points. If we're just talking pure performance, neither of these cars are good value, but the experience they give you, I would argue it gives pretty good value. Ford GT, similar thing, just slightly worse performance per value to the other cars because they're now $500,000. 458, awful performance value, but really special, especially if you want a Ferrari badge. I think it's the best valuable in the Ferrari game, and they're starting to go up. And easy to say, the Elva just being so much more money than the other cars, it has to be the worst in value. As much as I love the car, that's basically it. So let's add up the numbers and go over it. I promise I did not do the numbers and then work backwards. I just did this honestly, and it's hilarious how close the 750 and the 720 come to each other. If we did more categories, it might somehow get even closer. I can't get closer without doing decimals, but that might just happen. Obviously, the McLaren's in the top 3. I love all 3 of them. The Elva loses out on practicality, basically, and just how expensive it is. And for good reason. It's insanely expensive. You could buy so many 720s and 750s for the price of an Elva, but the Elva's experience is just one of a kind. So that's why it's still so high up there. Porsche is a really well-rounded vehicle. Obviously, I love my own car in the Lotus. Z06, I love the Z06. I'm honestly surprised to see how much higher the Z06 is than the Stingray. I wouldn't say they're that far apart, but the performance is so different. I guess it just adds up like this, especially when you're putting the C8 last for all the performance categories, basically. The Ferrari and the RS are cars, I don't know which one I'd rather have. I think I'd slightly rather have the Porsche simply just because of how much better built it is. I think the driving experiences are very equal, except the Porsche... Actually, never mind. What am I saying? I like the Porsche engine and transmission more. The 458, I just have a little nostalgia with, but I'd much rather have the Porsche to drive. Lotus, slightly below the Porsche. If I had to put in order these 4 cars, Lotus, Z06, 458, and RS, because I think they sit in similar points in the garage, I'd go Porsche, then Lotus, then Corvette, then Ferrari. And I can't believe I'm putting the Porsche ahead of the Corvette. If I was only having one supercar, I'd take the Corvette, but in a collection, I'd much rather have the Porsche. It's just a more fun car to drive. Unless you're going 10/10ths, then the Corvette's the best car to drive. But yeah, this is how it all adds up. Let me know why I'm wrong, because I'm sure the Porsche guys will let me know why I'm wrong specifically. Maybe some Ferrari guys too. So sorry for this kind of boring style video, guys, just looking at a screen, but more driving videos coming up. I'm going to do a quick edit of the Porsche and the Vette driving, so hopefully you guys stick around for that one. If you guys made it to the end, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.